Ethereal Shorekeeper will vanish your enemies among the sea of butterflies. And today, I'm gonna tell you how to build her best. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. So what echoes does this Keeper of Shores desire? None other than 5-piece Rejuvenating Glow. She is a healer, so she greatly enjoys this set as it improves that quality of her, not to mention the team-wide attack buff that it provides. Attack is a very high value stat in wuwa after all, and because Shorekeeper already buffs crit rate plus damage, Rejuvenating Glow is able to expand her buffing profile. 5-piece Moonlit Clouds is viable too, but my issue with this is that her best primary echo, Fallacy of No Return, can only be a part of the Rejuvenating Glow set, so you'd be forced to opt for an alternative. With that being said, if you're willing to do that, then the 10% ER and attack percent it provides on outro is pretty dandy. Even so, Rejuvenating's attack buff is team-wide. Use this as a placeholder until you can get a full Rejuvenating set, more than anything else. Her best primary echo will be the Fallacy of No Return. This guy can offer a chunk of team-wide attack along with 10% extra ER for Shorekeeper. No need to diverge from using this specific echo. As for her main stats, simple, go for this. This setup will yield the most power out of your Shorekeeper. Her healing scales on HP percent, which is why you go for the HP 1 costs. ER is important to pick up so that you can max out her buffing potential, and then of course there's healing bonus percent for the sake of her heals. However, Shorekeeper's intro skill is guaranteed to always crit. Because of this, if you're good enough at the game and don't really care for her heals as much, you can opt for crit damage instead to get a little more damage out of her. As for stat goals, simple, go for this. The only stat that matters on Shorekeeper is her ER. There is absolutely no need for anything else. HP percent is nice to have, but you'll be fine with the amount you get from main stats, and crit is optional. Above all else, chase those ER percent stats. Yet, what weapons does this alluring defender of the Sacred Shores desire? Well, her best in-slot choice will be the Stellar Symphony. The extra HP that it provides Shorekeeper in its passive will help her healing, plus extra Concerto energy is always welcome in order to have smoother rotations. The real kickers here are both the ER percent main stat, plus the meaty team-wide attack percent in the passive. Both of those are the main selling points of this Rectifier option. More ER is always incredible for this character, considering that's what she craves the most. And as I said earlier, attack buffing in wuwa is no joke, certainly an excellent option. Yet, if you have no interest in such a choice, have no fear, because variation is here. You also gain Concerto energy from its passive, and since this is a 4-star pick, you'll be able to refine it more easily, though the main meat of this choice is the energy, of course. You get plenty of it. It's absolutely worth maxing out this Rectifier for your Shorekeeper. Please don't feel FOMO in regards to your main signature weapon, because trust me, variation will serve you just fine. Yet, if you're a free-to-play with no variations to their name, fear not. You can always opt for the 3-star choice Rectifier of Voyager. You get some ult energy back from a cheaply refinable passive for starters, but as we all know, we're here for that juicy ER stat up at the top. It's an excellent pure budget option until you can pick up a variation at some point. Her weapon choices are unbelievably straightforward. There is no need to pick up anything other than these two options, because of how steep Shorekeeper's ER requirements are. Picking a non-ER weapon is simply making things unnecessarily harder for yourself. When it comes to Shorekeeper's teams, it's actually a little funny, because she works everywhere. This is not an exaggeration. No matter what your team composition is, she will work as the most ideal 3rd slot almost every time with very little exceptions. So instead, I will cover her 2 main archetypes where you'd be using her, and if there are any additional details to mention, then I will do so. She works excellently as a buffer in hypercarry teams. Shorekeeper's crit buffs apply to every character in the game as of now, because there is no such thing as a quote-unquote non-crit DPS at the moment. There is basically no hyper team where you would not want to use this character. She has raised the damage ceiling for every main DPS. It doesn't matter who you play, Shorekeeper will be best in slot. My main additional note here is that there is one negative mark when it comes to your synergy with Jinchi. This is because Shorekeeper doesn't do coordinated attacks, but Verena does. Regardless, her powerful buffing still makes her a viable teammate for the Magistrate of Jinzhou, yet with that being said, that's still something worth considering. Plus, she's such a powerful carry to the point where I think she needs the crazy buffing the least. I'd even save Shorekeeper for your weaker teams who are having a harder time clearing, so that you can clear more efficiently. Examples of hyper teams include Jian, Mortefi, Shorekeeper, Jinchi, Zhezhe, the Piano Woman, Shangling Yao Yao, Yinlin, the Sea of Butterflies. Then there's dual carry teams. The concept is basically the same here. Shorekeeper's buffs are so freaking strong that any dual carry team is going to want them. It doesn't matter what kind of dual carry team you're running, it will benefit from having this lady on their side. There isn't much else to add here, other than the fact that her buffs are team-wide, meaning that both sources of damage in the team are receiving an insane boost in numbers, therefore making your dual carry team stronger. Example dual carry teams include Xiangling Yao Yao, Changli, Resident of the Black Shores, Donjin, Havoc Rover, Mario 64, Scary Piano Room. I'm running out of nicknames. That team in particular is neat because Shorekeeper gives Rover an extra 10% ER, making it easier for them to achieve that nuclear burst of theirs. Xiangling Yao Yao, Colcharo, White Goose. Changli, Encore, Woman. You get the point at this stage. Shorekeeper works everywhere. There is literally no place in which you cannot use her. All the teams that I mentioned were mostly examples, but if I didn't mention the specific team that you'd like to play, then the answer is yes. Shorekeeper does work in the team you want to play, because there are 0 situations in which his character is bad or not optimal. Yet how does this Keeper of Shores actually work? Wuwa terminology contains a whole lot of yap, so I intend to break things down into simple terms. Her normal attacks deal 4 floaty hits in a row. Each hit will generate 1 collapsed core. We're going to refer to them as cores from here on out to keep things simple. Her third basic will generate 2. Whether you do plunges or heavy attacks, she will always generate 1 core. There's a whole lot of yap behind them, but the goal is to still generate more cores. These basic moves are also capable of grouping smaller enemies. As for Shorekeeper's skill, she will heal the entire team while also summoning 5 butterflies. These will track and attack enemies which deal spectro damage. As for her ult, she will generate a large realm which will heal your team once every 3 seconds, granted that they stay within said range. If someone in your team uses an intro skill inside of this range, for every 0.2% of the Shorekeeper's ER, all party members gain 0.01% more crit rate up to a max of 12.5%. Once they use another intro skill after gaining the crit rate buff, it evolves into being both a crit rate and damage buff. You can get up to 25% crit damage through her ult. This essentially makes her ultimate backloaded, because your teammates have to trigger a number of intro skills before they can access the full profile of Shorekeeper's crit buffs. Her Forte circuit is what makes the cores matter. It's what allows her normal attacks to generate these cores, and after 6 seconds, these cores will turn into quote-unquote flare star butterflies. These are the butterflies that attack targets. If you have 5 cores, then Shorekeeper will immediately trigger a flare star butterfly without having to wait for 6 seconds. Empirical data will allow Shorekeeper to heavy attack and transform all of her cores into butterflies at once, if you have 5 data stacks. Her intro skill will heal all party members, then summon 5 of her dim star butterflies. If she does her intro skill when you have her burst active up to the point where you now have the crit damage buff, she will end the duration of the burst realm, heal everyone, and she will then do a guaranteed crit hit to enemies. This will always be a crit hit no matter what. The damage from it is solid enough for it to be a cool aspect to her. Her outro skill will cause her to have 1 dim star and 1 flare butterfly circle the next character that comes on field. This has the busted effect of allowing your on-field character to dodge after getting hit, therefore getting you out of stun lock and generating you concerto energy. You're able to do this up to 5 times before the effect dissipates. This, aside from all of Shorekeeper's excellent heals, is what makes her such a great character for people with skill issue. That's not all though, her outro skill will also amplify everybody's damage by 15% unconditionally. Yeah, this unit seriously is the whole package. As for Ascension passives, simple. Her first inherent skill is essentially an emergency save button. If your DPS is about to die, haha, no they won't. This lady instead decides to be a Chad and take all that hefty damage for you. It has a 10-minute cooldown. This is, once again, pretty much an excellent ability for all the skill issued among us. Yeah, I said the thing. Anyways, her final inherent skill is where the real candy's at. It provides herself 10% ER, lowering the amount of ER that you need to fish from her echoes. The 10% for Rover is fairly conditional, of course, but it's nice in double Havoc Donjin Rover teams. Also, holy guacamole, they really went and said, yeah, Shorekeeper's a complete simp, huh? As for her Forte priority, simple. For a pure healer build, go for this. You don't need to bother with any of her other abilities if healing is the only thing that you're concerned about. Those 2 abilities will get you the most bang for your heals. I'd like to warn you that her buffing is fixed, so no matter how much you level her ult, her buffing remains fixed at 12.5% rate plus 25% damage, so if you're great at the game, then you can even opt to not level any of these up. However, if you want your Shorekeeper to do a bit of damage, go for this. Her intro skill is a guaranteed crit every time, so you can get a little bit of damage out of it. Then it's back to leveling up her healing qualities. Otherwise, once again, if you're good enough at the game and don't want the healing but do want the damage, simply level her intro skill and then call it a day. If you're as much of a mega simp for Shorekeeper as she is for the Rover, then perhaps you feel inclined to get some sequences, in which case, let's discuss. This is a pretty neat S1. You're able to use Shorekeeper's intro skill without cancelling all of your current crit buffs anymore, so that lifts some stress off of the preciseness of your rotations. You also get a neat extension on the range of her ult field, meaning that you have more room to run around while still remaining buffed. This S2 is simply some cold hard buffs. Great buffs at that. 40% attack is no joke, especially because attack percent is such a big deal in wuwa. Insane S2. Some more Concerto energy is always nice, just makes Shorekeeper feel smoother to play. Nice S3. This S4 is pretty much only good for the skill issued. If you're very good at the game, then this isn't needed at all. And if you're bad at the game, then I'm a little worried at the fact that you're unable to survive with an S0 Shorekeeper. I don't think anybody genuinely needs the borderline immortality that this S4 provides. This makes the grouping in Shorekeeper's basics stronger. Cool, nothing much else to add here, this sequence is fine. This S6 turns Shorekeeper from a buffing healer with some minor sub DPS into a buffing and healing sub DPS. That intro skill of hers is gonna be no joke in terms of damage, and you get an incredible jack of all trades, master of them all with this unit at S6. With that being said, do remember that no unit needs to be S6. You can easily clear the game with an S0 team. I'd say that in terms of our asteroid-based investment, you should go for sequences up to S2, then our signature rectifier, otherwise stick with variation. You can then go all the way up to S6 from there if you're that much of a Shorekeeper simp. It's pretty obvious to me that Kuro wanted this character to be busted. What she does isn't normal for a unit at this stage. She is, without a doubt, the new best character in the game. It was pretty obvious from the beginning that a second Verena was going to be really freaking good, but she is far from a side grade. She's an upgrade, through and through, with the most absurd amount of power imaginable. This character's power is peak, and if you care about meta in this game, mark my words, she is more worth your time than any other unit in this entire game. Hopefully this video was able to get your Shorekeeper washing her enemies off of the Black Shores. This has been Juice, signing out, and can anyone tell me what her favorite bug is? Dunno, kinda hard to tell. Ladybird? Caterpillar? Perhaps even a moth? We'll never know.